Okay, excuse me, I'd like to begin the meeting. Excuse me, I'd like to begin the meeting. Thank you. Excuse me, I'd like to begin the meeting. No problem. I'd like to welcome everybody and open up tonight's Georgetown Planning Board, May 27th, 2015 Planning Board agenda. New business is first. Howard.
Being the first full meeting of the planning board after town elections and town meeting, we need to proceed with reorganizing the board. The first will be election of new chair of the planning board. I'll coordinate and lead the taking of nominations for the election of chair. Nominations can be offered by members of the planning board and do not need to be seconded. Once all nominations have been received, I will call for a vote on each nomination in the order which they were received. Once the election of the chair has been determined, the chair will assume responsibility for the running of the meeting and election of any other officers as may be appropriate. So do I hear a nomination for chair of the planning board?
To nominate Rob.
I'd like to nominate Tilly if she'd take it. If you'll have it, Tilly. Will you have it?
Well, how about the chair, how about the vice chair?
Okay.
This is
Thank
running
you.
pretty smoothly so far. I
Thank
like
you.
this. Yeah, thank you, Tilly.
That's an honor, I
you.
appreciate you.
I think you deserve it. You've been on the board for 8 years, and we should rotate it around, and
Thank you.
everybody should have a shot at it.
Yeah, I
Just
think
don't
that's,
point my direction.
Well,
Thank you very much.
eventually,
Yeah, eventually, yeah.
the
right.
hammer
Served
will
this
fall,
clerk
my
well
friend.
for you.
Eventually. The hammer will fall.
Any other nominations for chair of the planning board? Hearing none, I'll take votes
Is there
for
a discussion at all?
any discussion.
About, at what point is there a discussion?
Well, before I take the vote, if you want to have discussion on nominations.
Yeah, I was just curious with something that Harry just said about everyone having a shot at the board and that it's good to turn over. And I'm curious what changed, Harry, from when I talked with you a year ago when we were talking about the chair. And at that point, when I asked you and I was coming on board about being the chair, your response to me was no, you wanted to hold on to the chair. And I was curious what changed for you.
It's got a lot easier not being the chair for me. And as far as trying to move it around the board, I was at a selectmen's meeting just last Monday. The board was invited to attend that selectmen's meeting. You weren't able to make it, but I was there, Howard was there, and they annually change their chair. And I think it's a really good idea. I like the way they do it.
So you like it now?
I do.
Changing it?
I do.
But you
I
didn't
think-
then? Good enough.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to know. Okay, thank you.
Open to new ideas, always.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the vote for Bob Watts' nomination of Bob Hoover. Harry?
Rob Hoover.
Rob Hoover, sorry. Vote.
Aye.
Tilly?
aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Aye. Wayne?
His name's Matt.
Your first official vote. I think so. Congratulations.
Just
Get the
to
pine
Matt,
cones.
we'll use informal names except for when it comes to decisions, then you have to use Matthew.
I was Bob for a while before I became Robert again.
That's 5 in the affirmative. And since there were no other nominations, Rob Hoover is the chair of the planning board.
I thank you all. I'm looking forward to the next year coming up. So we're moving to the vice chair of the planning board and nominations for vice chair. I'll nominate Tilly for vice chair.
Stole that away from me.
I was gonna steal it away from you myself.
Any second?
Second.
You don't need
You don't need a
second.
second.
You don't need it, but I just want
Sure.
to know if there's a second.
Tilly?
It's always nice to have.
Any other nominations for vice chair? Hearing none, I'll take a vote. Harry?
Hey. Tilly.
Tilly? Tilly?
Yes.
Bob?
Tilly. Yes, Tilly.
Matt?
Yes.
Matthew?
Rob?
Yes.
That's 5 in the affirmative. Tilly is the vice chair of the planning board.
God bless you.
The next one is a classic appointment versus nomination. But, so for the new clerk position, looking for nominations, and I know
would
where
like
this
to-
is going.
I would like to nominate Robert Watts.
Second.
Wow. How did that one go, huh?
All right.
Reluctantly, so reluctantly, I accept this nomination.
Any other nominations for clerk? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote for the clerk. Harry?
Yes.
Tilly?
Yes.
Bob?
Sure, yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Such a light load.
And Rob?
Yes.
Every now and then you have to sign
That's
something.
5-0 in the affirmative.
Every now and then.
Rob Watts is clerk.
Practice, practice, practice.
All right, so moving on to approval of minutes. We have the minutes of April 14th and the minutes of April 22nd. Anybody have any?
These were just passed over at the last meeting because of, I believe there's only 3 and 1 wasn't at the meeting.
I do have a couple of quick questions, and that's the minute taker's name. I didn't see on the 14th. I believe that was you, Andrea. Yeah. I think it would be a good idea to say who the scribe was, so if there are any questions, they can be directed.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I believe on page 3, the name is Shilhan, Paul Shilhan, as opposed
That
to
is
Schilling.
correct. That is correct.
Shil, I think it's just Shilhan.
Correct.
S-H.
Yeah.
Can you spell that again, Alice?
Shilhan.
Yeah. Okay. I have some spelling errors too. It's on page 4, 186. That's George Kaminsky is C-O-M-I-S-K-Y.
COM.
I-S-K-Y. And one more thing, was eliminated, which was one of the reasons that I voted the way I did, was because of the research I had done where neighboring communities,
What page you on, Tilly?
I think, it's not in here at all, but I thought maybe 283, you could add this in, that I had done the research from neighboring communities, about 7 in all, and they had similar zoning as we did for apartments and multifamily homes. And if Georgetown had voted to remove the density restriction, which would be the only town in the area to do this, the developers would be dancing to get applications filed, resulting in the town population explosion. And that was an important reason to me when I voted the way I did.
We can, you can send that to us?
Sure.
And then Andrea can look at the video.
Yeah.
So the wording is correct.
Okay. That's all I have.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
All right, the only one I had was on page 3 of 7 of April 22nd. Line item 73, R. Hoover versus B. Hoover. That was the only thing I picked up.
What number are you on?
That's on 73, line item 73. R. Hoover versus B. Hoover.
You don't want to be Bob even for one paragraph, huh?
Well, I want consistency. It's
It
for
makes
everywhere
perfect
else.
sense. It makes perfect sense. It does reduce confusion.
That's a different number than I have.
This is,
Set page, 73?
On the April 22nd, not the 14th.
Oh,
it's
okay.
the second meeting,
All right.
so it's just a typo.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so do you have a motion?
I move, can I move to accept both in one lump? I'd like to just expedite it, unless anybody has
I
an
don't-
objection.
I don't have any problem with that.
So I move we accept both minutes as written, the 22nd and April 14th.
Do we have a second?
Second,
So the motion has been made and seconded to approve the minutes of April 14th and the minutes of April 22nd, including the amendments as noted. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Any abstain?
Mr. Chairman, I must also abstain. I wasn't at either one of those meetings.
So there's 3 yes, 2 abstain. Correspondence. Howard? Anything worth?
Under correspondence, I have included 4 items, one from a Georgetown resident regarding Bailey Lane, one item from the Municipal Light Department regarding Bailey Lane, one from the Police Department regarding Bailey Lane, and one from the Water Department regarding Bailey Lane. So these can be brought up when you open the public hearing for the Bailey Lane OSRD application.
I think those others are further up in the packet.
Just have it.
The other way, there you go, that direction. That's the right, under public hearing.
Oh, they're in the public
Yeah.
hearing? Okay. Item 4, vouchers.
2 vouchers coming from the planning board's general account, both from Staples, having to do with the purchase of general office supplies. And the total amount is $246.36.
Do I hear a motion?
so moved.
Second for discussion, Mr. Chairman.
So the motion has been made and it's been seconded to approve the vouchers in the amount of $246.36. Discussion, Harry?
Yeah, I clearly see the invoice for the $78.98 expense, but my packet didn't have the second $160 expense. So I couldn't. review
There
it.
should be 2 from Staples, and then
There's a thank you for your order, and then
there
there's
should be
the,
2 thank you for your orders.
then there's a breakout for
Yeah.
for
the
the
breakout.
file folder paper lube. But again, that one,
And the ink cartridge, again, same day.
You know what?
It-
The order for $167.38 was for a wireless keyboard and mouse for Andrea, and then we ordered a label printer.
oh, okay, I don't see the keyless mouse, the wireless mouse. I don't
This
see that
has
one.
an outstanding balance of the previous order.
That's been paid.
That's the what?
That's been paid.
Well, that's the 78, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you repeated it again.
Let me just hold on to that. I just
Okay.
want to clear up Harry's.
I think that's the same, just a different version of the same one, but now that you've explained it, if there's a, as you said, a wireless mouse and keyboard?
Yeah.
Very good. Get rid of the clutter in the wires. Can't blame you at all. I have myself. Can't blame you.
Okay, so your question, Tilly?
It appears on this invoice from Staples that the remaining balance was $78.98. And that's,
Isn't that the first
And that's
of the
one
second
that's
of
one
the?
of the ones we owe.
Yeah,
yeah, that's the,
It's
On the
not
bills payable?
duplicated in the second one.
that's the second of the bills payable too. See it? Second one. And the first one's the key.
There it is there.
Yeah.
There's the balance.
right.
And that's what's reported here in the
Right.
balance. And that's what we owe, and that's the voucher amount
Right.
for the,
Well, yeah, okay.
what?
He just told me that he had paid it, so. I-
We're up to date, except for
Okay.
these 2.
All right.
Yeah, my only question is,
So he has.
it's a lot of ink cartridges, isn't it? There are 2 orders of them?
Backups. We ran out and we didn't have any backups.
Didn't have any backups. It's a good idea to have backups.
Could be able to
And,
hot
When-
swap it.
yeah, exactly, exactly. When this one goes dry, that
Instead of
way.
having to wait for an order.
Absolutely, absolutely. Smart way to go.
So.
Did we
any
have
more
a
dis-
deal with one of the other departments about cartridges? Wasn't it?
Everybody's sharing the cost of cartridges on the large format color plotter.
On that, that's the other printer, that's not
Yeah,
this one.
that's not that one. This is for just the planning office.
Thank you.
Okay, so, any more discussion? All right, seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstain? Okay, all set on the vouchers. Moving on to, public hearings. The first public hearing is 269 Central Street, Noonan site plan approval. Howard?
We received a phone call and a follow-up fax from Frank DeLuna, who's the engineer for the applicant, requesting continuation to the first meeting in June. The reason for this is he had not received peer review comments, and the engineer and the planning board's peer engineer had met last Friday, and we haven't received any correspondence from them.
Okay. So we need to, do we need to open that public hearing just to?
Open the public hearing,
To approve that, right?
and then
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to open the public hearing for Noonan Florist and Greenhouses, 269 Central. Continuation from, when was that?
Today, May 27th,
from May 13th.
From May
originally from May 13th.
13th.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So it's been motioned and seconded to open the Noonan Florist Greenhouse, 269 Central Street, Georgetown, Mass. Public hearing.
Applicants requested a continuation to the first meeting in June.
Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Question?
What's the story with the Form H on this? When is our time for decision?
It will be end of June.
End of June?
Yeah.
So we're good?
Yeah.
We don't need a Form H till the next one, till after the continuation?
Right.
And they want to move this to
The 10th? June 10th, I think.
June
The
10th?
24th.
June 24th?
I thought you said the first,
The
or
first
early.
planning board meeting in June will be the 10th.
Right.
They've requested continuation of the meeting, the public hearing, to June 10th.
10th, that's what, yes, that's
And
right.
I thought Harry was saying maybe we ought to move it to the second meeting in June, which would be the,
I just want to make sure we have plenty of time to get an extension of time.
yes.
That's all, that's my only concern. They can take their time and delay it as long as they wish, as long as we don't find ourselves in a sticky position.
Okay.
That's all I care about.
Has there been any discussion with them about that, in terms of the overall schedule?
They know where it is.
Okay. Any more questions? All right, seeing
Larry's been
no
reviewing that
questions,
for a
do we
while.
have,
Hasn't Larry been reviewing that for quite some time?
seeing no more questions,
He's had the documents for a while.
do you have any more questions? All right, so we have a motion to continue the public hearing to June 10th. Noonan's Florist, 269 Central Street, June 10th, 2015. And it was seconded,
Second it.
opposed, and seconded by Tilly. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? Second public hearing. Bailey Lane, OSRD. Info on that, Howard?
In accordance with the provisions of Article 7 of the Town of Georgetown zoning code, the Georgetown Planning Board will hold a public hearing on May 27th at 7:15 in the third floor meeting room at Georgetown Memorial Town Hall, 1 Library Street, to consider Bartlett Realty Trust special permit application for open space residential development regarding property located at Bailey Lane in Georgetown, Massachusetts. The property is located in the residential C zone district and as described by tax assessor map 6A-1. Copy of the application and plan is on file in the Georgetown Planning Office and may be inspected Monday through Thursday, 9 AM to 4 PM. This was published in the Georgetown Record on May 8th and May 15th. So, Mr. Chairman, you can open the public hearing for the OSRD application for Bartlett Realty Trust.
All right. Gentlemen, come on up front.
Do you want to open the public hearing?
Yeah, I was just, so, do I have a motion?
Motion to open the public hearing for OSRD. What did you have, Mr. Bailey? I'm sorry.
Bailey Lane.
Just, Bailey Lane.
Not 6A-1 Bailey Lane.
Tax assessors, map 6A. Do I have a second?
Second.
So, it's been a motion made and it's been seconded to open the public hearing for Bailey Lane. Any discussion? Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Welcome.
Thank you.
What we're gonna do is, guys have a brief window to sort of, I'm assuming everybody here is associated with this project in some form or fashion, and to sort of update them all, and we'll take some comments from them.
Okay. Green cards or white? Yeah.
Come over.
Green or white? Green?
Green, yeah, thanks. Have these been stamped? Yep.
Those are returns, yep. For the record, I'm Tom Mineta from Thomas Mineta Incorporated. With me is Jeff Ruder from Symes Associates. Everybody see? What we have in front of us.
Actually, I cannot see that. If you could move it down here. A tiny bit more.
Tom, I
I'm on the
appreciate what, I
planning board.
appreciate what you're doing, but, and what, the board needs to be able to see it, and, you folks have this here to be looking at, okay? And if you can't see it, what I'm gonna suggest is, and you wanna look at those versus these.
Should be another monitor back there as well, no?
Yeah, and then there's that monitor back there as well. So it does have to be presented to the board members to the best of our ability in the room the way it is.
Thanks for your understanding. I appreciate it.
Nice guy, Bob.
Well, sorry.
For general information, the site is off of Bailey Lane. It's about 12.02 acres. It is in the residential C zone, which requires conventional lots at 80,000 square feet with 200 feet of frontage. The site slopes on an average of 1 to 14%. It's mainly forested with red oak and white pine. So the site is wide open right now. There is an existing path through the site.
It's the same
I
plan,
have
it's
both.
just,
There's two plans.
sorry, I was using the conventional subdivision
so-
for your, discussion on existing conditions, so.
Okay, all right.
I would recommend the screen there, cause that is what he's got. And that's guaranteed to be the same.
So, Tom, if you want me to, just let me know if we're gonna go between the OSRD and the conventional.
Okay,
Thanks.
I'll just talk about Bailey Lane first, the actual road. As everybody knows, the travel width out there is about 12 to 14 feet existing. What we are proposing under, not this plan, or either plan, I should say, but which shows up on the second plan, Howard, the OSRD plan, has got more detail. So what we're proposing is to upgrade Bailey Lane from the intersection of Taylor to Mohawk to a width of 18 feet, and from Mohawk to the frontage on lot 5, which shows up, this is the last lot, to 14 feet. So the road upgrades are shown on my plan. Actually it shows up there as, you can see the gray is the existing road, and the green to the right side of the road is the proposed widening area within the right-of-way of Bailey Lane. Bailey Lane is a private road under public use. So, under the application with the planning board, getting over 10 years, two ways. First board, which is what complies with the subdivision rules and regulations, 200 feet of frontage and 2-acre lots. Because this parcel is over 10 acres, we also have to look at it as an OSRD, which is an open space residential development. Those are the requirements of the planning board. So we have come up with two schemes to prove
what the lots would be on an OSRD plan, you have to do a proof plan, which is the conventional plan to show lots. So I will describe the conventional plan first. So, this site, again, Bailey Lane, we're proposing, there's a conventional plan, a road, 488 feet plus or minus, and it'll be 5 lots. The lots will range from 81,000 square feet to 155,000 square feet. So again, it would be 3 lots off the proposed roadway and 2 Form A lots off of Bailey Lane, so for a total of 5 lots. Same road improvements on either plan. So the OSRD plan, which is open space residential development, I'll just kind of give you a outline of the colors and what they mean. Again, the gray is the existing roadway, the green is the proposed roadway, the blue are existing houses that were field located. They have the hatching as well, the outline two houses taken off of town maps. The yellow on this plan is just a conceptual drainage layout. It hasn't been engineered yet. Both these plans are at the conceptual stage. The outline, the dark green outline, is a little over 7 acres, and what that is proposed open space, which would be deeded to the town of Georgetown. The OSRD plan, again, has 5 lots, 3 Form A lots off of Bailey Lane, and 2 lots off a proposed court. The red on this plan is area approximately 5 spaces for people to pull off the roadway if they want to walk the property, get on the trail. This red is a proposed trail that would tie into the existing path that's on the property. The brown, the light brown, is the proposed driveways. The mustard yellow color is the proposed houses. And the jade green color, the squiggly line around each house is a proposed limit of work, or limit of cut for the site. So again, the OSRD plan and the conventional plan both have 5 lots. OSRD plan has smaller lots, but a large open space.
All right, thank you. So I think now what I'd like to do is go to the public to take comments, questions, and if you could direct them to the chair and introduce yourself for the record, that would be great.
Hi, my name's Edward Oldbash, and I'm a resident of 33 Bailey Lane.
Could you come up? The microphone's hard time hearing you back there.
Edward Olabash.
So, again, my name is Edward Oldbash, I'm a resident of 33 and I wanted to take a quick look at the drawing here. I'm colorblind, so how would they widen the road? I know you mentioned the colors, the gray and the green.
Right, it's approximately 12 to 14 feet wide right now, depending on where you measure it from and how you'd measure it.
So
The
for example,
proposed-
my house is here.
Yep,
Right? The existing road is where?
the existing road is right here.
Just make sure he keeps track.
Is your driveway here? This darker color maybe shows up
Yeah.
right here is where the widening would be, so it's basically on this side of the property along here. You can see, and then we provide a turnaround down at Mohawk.
Okay. Now, what about the distance with this SRD format? Another primary concern of mine,
Yeah.
and I'm sure from the other fellow residents, is
Could we, what I'd like to do is, I know the protocol is kind of a nuisance, but could you direct the questions here so that we don't end up getting into a dialogue and
oh, sure, absolutely.
appreciate it.
So my concern also is privacy issues. I'm a former resident of Lynn, and I'm sure you've all heard the slogan. And When my wife and I first moved to Georgetown, our primary concern was privacy. And when we first bought the house from Anthony D'Amato, the main focus was that beautiful backyard and how private it was compared to growing up in the city of Lynn. And I'm very concerned about that, as well as I mentioned safety. And I'm sure my fellow residents are also concerned how, when these residents move in and families, and how that's gonna impact in the long run our tax dollars and more teachers.
Can you just elaborate a little bit on when you say safety?
Yes, you see kids riding their bikes, people walking their dogs, and the roadway is narrow, and if there's, it's bad enough now with the people who live there. As you probably already know, Lake Shore Drive is one of the busiest roads in Georgetown.
Because it's a cut through.
Not just that, but in terms of its population, it's one of the most densely populated areas in Georgetown.
Just for,
Anyone else care to back me up here with any?
well, what I'd like to do is, instead of backing you up, is to take your comments and
Yes.
concerns and then do that with everybody. And also, just as a reminder, and I was, it was a good reminder on this end too, this is the first public hearing. We have no information back from our technical review agent to a lot of the questions that you just asked, for example. As well as we haven't even determined the yield plan and the number of lots. So this is early on in the process, first public hearing, and it's really more, I think, for you all to put your concerns on the table now and make them understood, so that hopefully we can address those as we continue on. We're not gonna get answers tonight,
Okay, right, of course.
so that's just sort
Correct,
of,
thank you. One other thing I would like to add, as I get back to the issue, my house is the one proposed to that roadway. If this proposal is accepted by the board, again, ideally, we would like to stop this if possible. If it can't be stopped, I was concerned about how they could accommodate us in terms of a privacy barrier.
Mr. Chairman, can I address that? Well, just to help you understand, one of the concepts behind an OSRD application is it's a special permit. So there's an ability of the planning board and the applicant to work together outside of a more strict permit review of definitive subdivision. Under the special permit, they can work with the developer in getting road widths narrowed, and being cautious with that. Under the OSRD, those two lots, it's a court, so it'd actually be only about 14 feet wide. Under a standard, under the yield plan, the standard subdivision, he'd have to meet subdivision standards, which is 24 feet wide. So under the special permit and as a court, you're reducing the roadway width. And in this instance, and Tom can correct me if I'm wrong, it's being considered just a shared driveway, not as a subdivision roadway.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Howard.
Yep.
Anyone else from the public? Please, come on up and introduce yourself for the record. We should have a sign-in sheet, actually.
Mark Favazzo, Daily Lane.
That's mine. I
My
went
question
back.
sort of follows on Ed. With, somewhere up around where the two Bailey Lanes don't meet, somehow, before my time, there's maybe a 20-foot patch of road that just never joined.
It's down at the bottom there.
Okay. Yeah, but it has never joined with the upper and the lower Bailey Lanes. Will that eventually be? No.
That's not part of this.
Just for general information, that
So,
is now
so,
conservation
so
land.
the house, so I'm sorry, so the road will be going in a couple houses up from Ed's and turning towards the right.
right next to it,
Okay. So in between the other house?
their house.
Okay. Okay, that was just basically what I want to know, and I just, okay.
There's going to be, there'll be more public hearings and more opportunities to ask more questions and clarifications.
20 miles away.
Is there anyone else from the public? Please.
Get that guy's name.
My name is Anthony Natal, 35 Bailey Lane. What I'm concerned about mostly is, I couldn't quit here. I got a hearing problem. My wife was asking me to go get some hearing aids. This court, there's a 50-foot easement between the houses. All right, that was always there. And a 100-foot throat. I stand to lose a third of my driveway to that. What I would like to know is, you say it's either gonna be 14 feet or 24 feet?
In a conventional plan, if it's that conventional layout, it would be a 24-foot wide pavement, curbs, and then sidewalks.
What are you people leaning toward?
The court right now is basically, it would be a common driveway. There's several in town, they're about 14 feet wide. They're
Okay.
constructed like a driveway, but they still have to sit in that right of way in case it's ever expanded or the town decides that it needs to be, brought up to town standards, so.
I mean, there's a lot of trees here, and would they cut? Hope not, yeah. That would give us a price. I've been in this house almost 40 years.
Which house are you, sir?
Huh?
Which house are you?
I'm sorry, right here.
Okay, thank you. All right.
35. For street lights here. Yeah, it is in the right of way, so I wanna know if do I have to move it?
Can you point that up, just
The light post?
where that is, it's in the right
His,
way?
his house is right here.
Yes?
His driveway is here. He actually has like an island, and he has 2 driveway cuts.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, I see it. Yep,
okay?
yep.
And, I wanna know if I gotta move it. Also, my driveway is the original driveway, it needs replacing, so, and I don't wanna make a move until I know which way,
Right.
which way are you people leaning toward?
Well-
As little as
well-
possible?
Well,
maybe?
tonight the idea is to get the feel from the abutters as well as the planning board, because we have these 2 options and we need direction on which way to go as far as a fully engineered plan. These are both conceptual.
So you prefer as little road as possible next year?
I just want to see that road fixed.
We want Daily Lane fixed.
That is such a.
We're gonna do that.
Sir?
Hi, everyone. Bruce Prescott Jr., 38 Bailey Lane, and I'm the unfortunate individual to be directly across here. As you know, there's a telephone pole directly across, and all my utilities go right there, so that pole's, I'm sure, has gotta go. So all my utilities are gonna have to be moved if this goes through. Is there any other place is there any other easement in this whole area that you can get to these back lots besides right here?
There is not, and you're looking at the right-of-way being 50 feet. It's only a driveway that would pop out across from your house. It's a 14-foot wide driveway is what's proposed on that plan.
I'm just thinking in the wintertime, because I know it's an absolute nightmare up there. Every plow that comes in and turns around is gonna go out and either go left or right, and everything's gonna get dumped right on my driveway.
Well, we're providing a turnaround at the intersection of Mohawk as well, so.
That's not the issue.
Huh?
That's not your issue. Your issue is, as any truck makes that turn, it's
Yeah.
automatically gonna dump right in front of your house.
It's gonna be right there. It's a nasty spot, and like I say, everybody who turns around and comes up this way, headlights bang at the house. Am I being selfish? Yes, I am. But this is my concern. And as far as the construction of it, is there any sort of time proposal that you have to move on anything, or is it totally in the feeling works?
This is the preliminary
This is
plan.
in the
This
feeling
first
works.
plan.
Okay,
Use your words.
that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
at 33 Bailey Lane, and my only concern is the placement of the houses. My house is right here, and I just would like a little more privacy, and I just would like the houses to be further back rather than so close to my backyard. That's my only concern.
Thank you. Anyone else? Come on up.
I'm Jim Thornhill. I'm at 5 Mohawk Circle, just up and around. I just want to reiterate what Ed has talked about and pretty much everyone else. That section of Bailey Lane, right where the shared driveway is proposed, that's quite possibly the worst section of the existing road. It's the steepest section of the road right now.
That's correct.
The drainage pattern right now, as you would know, is the water just comes straight down that hill. That freezes up in the wintertime. So if I come home at night without four-wheel drive on, I get stuck right in front of Bruce's. He probably hears my wheels spinning.
Yeah.
So you have to back all the way down and hit it hard to get up. So to add another driveway in there, there's gotta be some fixing done to that to alleviate that concern.
Well, you gotta remember too, we're proposing to widen and pave to 18 feet.
And
You're at
control
12 to
drainage.
14 feet right now.
And
The other,
There's no drainage control right now.
there's zero drainage.
That's
It
correct.
goes
We're-
right down the hill.
We're proposing to change that.
That would be a huge improvement.
and what, just so that you're aware, that with our technical review agent who
Mhm.
represents the town, they're looking at specifically those issues. Or they will be.
Which is good. I just
Oh,
wanna,
yeah.
that's a tough spot, a really tough spot. And, I mean, Bruce, everyone's driveway just kinda dump in right there, so to add, you know. Is there any consideration, cause right now that shared driveway looks like it kind of shoots you downhill. Is there any consideration for allowing a turn going up?
What I was trying to do is take the existing trees into account, so that that's why that driveway shapes that way. It can move, it's just that larger trees along that right of way would have to come down.
I mean, delivery guys, the mailman comes up Bailey Lane that way.
Yep.
So if he's dropping out packages, he's gonna come and go to the clustered mailboxes here.
Mhm.
So to try to make a more than a 90-degree turn there.
Yep, we could definitely look at that. It was just a matter of try to save as many trees out in the right of way as we could.
Sure, yeah. I think looking at this, when I first looked at the map, the first thing I thought about was Ed and Terry's house. They're gonna have a house. Their entire house, and give some indication of kind of the distance between them, really. If there's any way to adjust that lot or the house, just so it doesn't feel like there's a house that's sprouted up in the backyard there.
I think, just for, I know this is a concern and we're very early on, but, you know, we're talking 160 feet. That's a pretty good distance.
That's the width of a football field,
Sure.
just to give you a reference.
Yeah. If you're going from nothing to something though, it's
Understand.
160 feet, isn't it?
Understand?
Excuse me, that would be 100 yards, not 100 feet.
No, I said the width of a football field.
It's actually wider. Is it
Width
football field
50,
on it?
it's 50 feet wide and then 150.
The open space concept that I'm a huge fan of, because I do spend a lot of time hiking. It's kind of, you know, that's a well-worn path going on. So recreating that, I think is a very nice touch. The turnout on Mohawk, in my opinion, I think it make, I don't know if you're planning on turning the corner, you know, or kind of ending.
It's actually, the turnaround is right here, right in this area. It's actually coming onto this lot, so they can come in, back out and go out, or come in, back out and go down. And then it's basically another common driveway. Yep.
Would this be paved as well?
Yes.
That's all.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Mark Unger on 25 Bailey Lane. I didn't get an opportunity to read the letters from the police or the highway, but it just seems to me that we're gonna be putting a lot of water. I don't think there is drainage in the street down there at Bailey Lane, so where would they be putting this water flow? That's my first question. And then, the maximum density, I don't know what it is, we figure 2.5, 3 cars a house, and that Lake Shore is very congested. Maybe we shouldn't go with quite the maximum density with all those cars, say it's, I've driven, up on, Pillsbury Lane, and every house has two, maybe 2.5, 3 cars. So that could add 15 cars every morning, every afternoon, and that's an interesting neighborhood, because those houses are always gonna churn over with young people, because a lot of them are starter homes. So the density may be a little more than I think should work. And the open space.
God bless you.
Open space is wonderful, we all love it, I agree with the concept. But since I live out here, I really don't wanna give people a place to park, because they bring trash in and no one picks it up. And I sometimes get a lot of trash piled on my stone wall, because some people like to clean it up and expect me to dispose of it. So I don't think ever who's controlling the space is doing a good job, and I personally wouldn't like to see those spaces there to promote litter. And those are my 3 comments. Thank you.
Just to reiterate, the drainage issue will be something that is gonna be looked at quite closely.
I'm sure.
And just one of the challenges that the board has, and that everybody has, is weighing the OSRD and that number of units, if that was the plan that ended up happening, versus a traditional subdivision, pros and cons, 4 feet wide of pavement, and the trees you can save and can't save. And there's a balancing act in here, trying to find the best match for everyone. I just wanted to. Could you introduce yourself, please?
I'm sorry, I'm Terry Bash at 33 Bailey. Isn't it wetlands behind what they're proposing to build?
No, it is not, no.
It's not wetlands? Well, there is a river behind their house, so, I'm just saying.
We've submitted a report from a botanist.
Would you be so kind as to just point to the land behind the house that you're talking about, where there's no wetland, where there's no conservation, where they think there is?
Yep. Basically, the entire parcel.
This site has been walked by a botanist to confirm that there are no wetlands on the property. There are wetlands off-site,
Okay, so that might be what you're
but
thinking
we're hundreds of feet from that development area.
of. Okay.
You're in
Thank you.
excuse me, you're in a zone 2, aren't you?
We are not.
You're not.
I don't believe we are, no.
Did you check that?
I'd have to confirm it, but I
Please.
did a few years ago when we started this, looking at
Okay.
this, so.
Yeah.
Anyone else from the public? It's great to see you all here, really, and the comments are very helpful. So no more comments from the public, bringing it back to the board.
There, no more comments from the public at this time. They're
At
more
this
than
time.
welcome to come for additional
yeah.
public hearings and keep up with applications. So.
Absolutely. And I hope you're all clear on where we are in the process, which is this is the first public hearing. So with that, I don't know if the planning board has anything they want to add or questions they want to ask. Tilly, I'll start with you.
I don't, I'm looking at this, I'm not looking at this, so. There was a trail on the right side of that house at the end of, what you're showing, Bailey Lane.
Yes.
Will that be preserved?
No.
No.
Would you please point to that for me?
This is the existing trail, starts here, ends here. So what we were proposing is to take a trail to this tie-in point, which would then link to all the other open spaces that are out there.
They had the report from Brad, right?
I don't know.
So I just want
You
to
didn't get
clarify
those?
what, my understanding of what you just said. Nothing's changing except for the access
thing.
to Bailey Lane,
Just the
as
copy
far
of
as
it.
the trail is concerned.
I'm sorry, what was that?
The only thing that's changing on the trail is where the access from Bailey Lane is.
Correct,
Okay,
yep,
all right.
yep, it'll merge at the same
It's a
point.
legal
Okay.
opinion on that trail.
Thank you.
Anything else?
And also, the, habitat of the protected.
Protected, yep, both of those have been reviewed, and there's nothing on this site.
Can we have a copy of that?
Yep, I can have the botanist prepare a
Great.
document. You should have it, I thought Patrick submitted it, but I have a few
I
copies
believe
here.
it is in a natural heritage endangered species area.
What's that?
A portion of it.
Look for Blanding's turtles down there.
My house is.
Your house,
You got those right?
From Patrick? Howard can pull that up on my map and lay a layer on it.
Michael Seacamp's reviewed everything, there's a written report there.
I'm familiar with it. Howard can pull
Thought
that
you would be.
up and verify it.
Mhm.
Very familiar.
Tilly? Anything else?
I think, I might come back.
All right. All right.
I'd just like to get to yield, right by the numbers here. Yield, 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 yield. Let's not waste any time, let's figure out what it is. Looking at what you seem to be looking at and believing is a yield of 5.
Correct.
I'm correct. I look at the conventional lot, and I look at one of your 2 supposed A&R lots, and I really question that second A&R lot, whether there's adequate width and grade to the way. I don't believe there is.
How so?
Let me ask a question, Howard. In the technical review response, aren't they gonna be reviewing the yield plan?
Yes.
Whether or not it
Yeah, that's the opinion the board will rest on about if the yield plan is.
so I guess, you know, we can
That
talk.
was the opinion of the board
We can,
for an A&R.
well,
In the
Oh,
opinion
for
of
an
the
A&R,
board.
right, but, well,
Well, these are 2 A&R lots.
An
Did
A&R
I hear
lots,
it wrong?
yeah.
I'm sorry. These are 2 A&R lots.
let's not be sarcastic.
They are. I'm misinterpreting one of the lots off of the proposed roadway.
right. So we need to, are you gonna submit an A&R Form A application for those?
If the board wants us to go towards a conceptual, my understanding in reading your regulations is these meetings are giving us information to say, yes, you would prefer us to go OSRD
Right.
or conventional. So if I was going conventional, I would, or OSRD, we would then start the full engineering plans. Again, this is, under your regulations, a concept plan, they're both concepts. So we're trying to get input from the board to say, go ahead and engineer a OSRD, or go ahead and engineer a conventional.
I feel like.
We don't
I feel-
even your regulations
But
say
I-
you don't engineer
I
both.
feel like we went through this a lot at the last meeting, correct me if I'm wrong, but the board is not going to direct you, correct me if I'm wrong, the board is not gonna direct you or say, we want you to pursue this plan or this plan.
Well, he'll get a feeling from the public and the board which way they're gonna proceed.
But the board is not going to say, go
Go
this
this way.
direction, go this direction, and.
My understanding, reading your
No, let the
regulations.
chairman finish
Oh,
it.
I'm sorry.
Everyone-
No, well, I think that's it, I mean, I think in the end, it's going to be your decision, I just wanna make that very clear.
Okay.
And getting back to, when you proceed with the OSRD or
The
the
convention.
conventional, then when they'd have to do A&R plans.
Correct.
Yep.
And that's when the planning board will be able to evaluate if the A&Rs are.
A&R. And at that point, then we'd be able to determine yield. We can't determine yield until that time.
Until you determine that the A&Rs are, and you can endorse them.
See, I'm
Can,
not good-
can
I'm-
we, when Larry does his technical review of the plan, can he look at those and comment on that?
Sure.
Those lots are.
They conform, but eventually the board has to endorse them.
I have an opinion that it isn't an A&R, this is all subdivision, 5 lots. And that's how I'm looking at it. Whichever one you choose.
So I guess all I'm saying is that, it's great to have this discussion right now, and let's continue to have it right now. But there will be coming from the technical review agent additional guidance on their opinion, and then I think we can start to, say whether or not we agree with the yield plan being a yield plan that is accurate.
It would be a good time to.
In mind, I'd like to make a motion for an M account,
Yeah.
to establish an M account.
Yeah, that's,
Could I ask a question?
please.
How are they not A&R lots? Because I've got to direct Tom on where I'm gonna invest our money.
I haven't even looked at them.
Yeah, I mean, well, what I'm hearing is that they're not, if we're going to do an A&R plan, we're going to do an A&R plan. So, and I'm hearing that there's not gonna be any type of direction to a OSRD or a conventional plan, and that we don't think these are A&R lots, so if I've got a have Tom
And
do
Ty-
off.
Let me just try to.
Sure.
I think, yes, I agree with the board saying, the board's not gonna say what direction to go in. I think you've just heard though from one member who's questioning those two lots on the A
Right.
and R. And I'm all, at the same time, counterbalancing that with saying, we're gonna get a technical agent's review on that to guide us in whether what he's saying is correct or not.
Okay.
So I don't know those answers yet.
Okay.
It's just one member. And Tilly, I think, is talking about an A and R lot, but thinking of the whole package
Right.
as a subdivision. She's talking about almost a different issue than we're talking about, I think, with the
Yeah.
two lots.
Right.
It's a little-
Yeah.
And they may be on plan viable A and Rs, but when you get out to the field, it may be a question about access and things like that, so the board would wanna go out and have a look.
I'm well versed in adequate access case law.
So,
They meet the definition and you know they do.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Well, no,
I don't, without going out there and seeing
I
it.
know. They,
it's okay.
Yeah.
Everybody's doing their job here.
No, I just,
There's all that whole confusion about being on the official town map, et cetera, and
I've-
all the other things that are in it.
I thought,
That's
that-
why
and
I'd like the
and I
idea of Larry looking
apologize,
at
I thought these had gotten to you, because at our last meeting, you asked for legal opinions on those, and I also have those too. So I have legal opinions on the car path that you asked for, I have legal opinions on the right-of-way that you asked for. Howard is in possession of all of those
Great,
things.
that's good.
So,
last one,
Mr. Chairman, I would like to enter into the record, as Exhibit A, a letter from, Latham Law Offices dated April 17th, to Jeffrey Ruda, Manager, Sims, Development and Permitting. As well as for Exhibit B, forest, excuse me, forest cover type description as Exhibit B regarding Bailey Lane, prepared for Sims Associates and provided by Seacamp Environmental Consulting, dated April 9th.
There's actually two separate letters from Latham's office.
Both dated April 17th.
Yeah, one is for the car path and one is the legal opinion you asked for on Bailey Lane,
Okay, thank you.
in the adequate access issues.
And those will be in our next packets,
Yeah.
Howard?
Yes.
Yep.
And Larry's quite familiar with Brad.
Did you have anything else?
Yeah, just more information about the path, just a little bit more information about the path. Not so much legal information as historical information, because like, when we finally do resolve that 5-4 yield, whatever that yield happens to be, at some point, you're gonna have to demonstrate to the board how you sat down and you preserved, you did the primary resource areas and the secondary resource areas, and how you built your subdivision around them, avoiding them, and it doesn't look, just superficially, it doesn't look like you avoided them, it looked like you sort of stomped on top of them and just said, well, we'll move it. Just an opinion.
So if you can
It's a quick look.
address that next time, when you come think about it, unless you wanna take a crack at it now. You don't have to.
Tear this out.
what, I guess the question is that, what is the significant value of that path? The idea of that path is that you can get to the other open space that the town controls, correct?
I don't know what the significance of it is, I don't live there.
Well, all
But
of
it is
the,
there, and it has been there for a long time, and
Yep.
historically, the stone walls, that path.
Yep, the stone
trails that-
walls will stay.
Trails that might not be shown on your plan, just because, you know, naturally, it's difficult sometimes
Right.
to plot all those trails.
Yep.
Those are all supposed to be shown on the plan, so that you can then use
That-
your magic and work those houses around them
When we
without
did,
affecting them.
when we did the original survey, that path was the most distinctive path out there. And it was the most well-used path, and it appears that that path was used from Bailey Lane to get to the other open space. This has always been a privately owned piece of property. So the people technically were trespassing that piece of property to get to the open space that the town owns. So what we've provided, we've actually enhanced that trail by providing parking, which the Conservation Commission had asked for. I'm sorry, the Conservation Administrator had asked us for, it was actually in a meeting with you, Howard, if you
Yeah.
remember. And we are creating a proposed path to tie into the point where it does get onto the existing town property, which is extensive. I mean, I don't know exactly how many acres, but I know it's pretty big, so.
I think Steve Brzezinski, the conservation agent, submitted a letter that he wanted that preserved.
That's possible, I don't have any of those letters.
Okay.
I don't have any
But
correspondence.
in our meeting, he did ask for parking, and that's what I said, he asked for
I
parking.
don't think he asked for preserving the park. I think what he asked for was, just to, if the land, that much land, the benefit to the public should be met with a path and some parking.
Yes, the parking is what I'm
Yeah.
making reference to, not moving the path, but the
I
actual
remember
parking.
seeing that letter. There is a last,
We haven't received any correspondence.
no,
Have you talked to Conservation Commission?
Howard and I met with him early on.
So you met with the agent so far?
Yes. Yep. I actually met with the fire department. I've tried to meet with the DPW, I just haven't had any luck of catching him.
Thank you.
Yeah.
well, for one
You
thing-
will get comments from every town department. I'll make sure of it,
Yep. Which is part of the.
the process.
Right.
We're gonna finish
I'll
here
defer to the
with.
gentleman, that's all right.
Will we be notified again in writing, or how do we find out more about meetings about this subject matter?
It's notified, this meeting tonight will be,
Thank you.
continued to a certain date, so
Okay.
tonight you will hear that. And then there's a public notice that takes place, and that's the newspaper, and also,
Well, that was done now.
No.
that one was done.
But the agenda will be posted for the planning board meeting, outside of town hall as well as on the town website.
That's
And they
what-
always can call the planning office too.
And could I add one little clarity in terms of my safety issue? I didn't mention it, but my concern about safety was, again, people walking the dogs, kids riding their bikes. I'm wondering about what the speed limit would be on that street. Will it be regulated? Are there gonna be sidewalks? Things like that. As Mr. Unger mentioned, that, we have to imagine that these homes are gonna have at least 3 vehicles, and it's gonna be a lot more traffic, a lot more traffic.
I'd just like, as part of the preliminary, I know the Open Space Committee is supposed to have a representative here. I'm still on it for another month, I don't know if I'll continue on after that, but from an Open Space Committee perspective, looking at your open space, to make it more valuable to the town, from a town perspective, the 3 lots that you're showing closest to it, to the existing open space, should be clustered further up, because you can waive frontage. Okay, you can waive that frontage. On that cul-de-sac, you cannot waive the frontage on an existing street. Read it, check into it, we don't have that ability. But if I had my druthers push those houses up so that the contiguous open space would all be abutting the existing open space, from an open space perspective.
And one board member.
And, yeah, absolutely.
Because my understanding under OSRD, you have control over the property. So under that property control, you can control the lot size and frontage.
Right, but you cannot control the frontage on an existing street.
I believe you can.
I believe you need to read that again, sir.
Yeah, that would undo the OSRD. Whereabouts
Oh,
is
no,
that?
on any streets that we create, we can waive the frontage, no doubt.
No, I understand, but if you're correct, the OSRD's gone. Whereabouts is that?
I don't have it in front of me.
I have it. You know whereabouts in?
If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
No, I'm just curious.
Fair.
I've seen that in other communities, and if we miss that,
It's in this
I don't wanna waste the board's time.
Oh, I'm gonna do that legal work for
How
them.
how about this, yeah, instead of
Why don't
doing
we have
that,
Larry
I
find
feel,
that?
I feel uncomfortable
Why don't we
with
have
that,
Larry find that?
but so there's a legitimate question there?
Absolutely.
And
About
just,
whether or not we have,
just have,
dimensional reductions on a existing street.
would you, Howard, would you please just, highlight that with Larry? I don't wanna forget the M account either.
I make
Not now,
motion.
not now, not
Okay.
now, don't
Hold
forget it,
off.
but I don't wanna forget the M account
I
of
know,
this.
I get impetuous.
Excuse me,
I have one more question for these two gentlemen here.
Yes, your name again, please? Just for the record.
Anthony Natal again. Gentlemen, what's your proposed timeline for all this?
As soon as possible.
Yesterday.
Based upon tonight, it might be 2017.
Okay.
But I will tell you that once we get our approvals, we're very fast.
Okay.
Somebody mentioned Pillsbury Lane. Yeah, we built that out in 28 months, 33 houses.
Yes, Simon's property.
Thank you again.
All right, we're very good constructors. We build at a rapid pace.
I was
So-
just curious.
And we work very well with the neighbors too. I mean,
Yeah.
we have very few issues down there, very few issues on Jewett Lane where we built. So, you'll get to know me well. I hope. I'll give you all my business cards.
All right,
Once
fine,
once
thank
this meeting's over, so you can get in touch with me.
Excuse me? Sorry, Terry Olash. At the last preliminary hearing, I watched it online, and you had asked them to show a tree line before and after.
Mm-hmm.
Are you showing that in the drawing?
Yes,
The tree line is shown?
what they had, the limit of cut is this around each lot.
There's no trees left here, from here to my house?
There would be some, yeah, we didn't physically locate the trees here, we have these out front, which obviously would stay. But we could locate some throughout this right of way. But what was asked is like a limit of cut for the lots, and then a description of the property.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask the engineer how that could be a limit of work when I see a septic outside of it? Or is that a septic, or what am I seeing outside that? What
That's
is
a-
it?
that's a-
This?
that's a-
Is this a reserve?
That's a reserve.
That's a reserve?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, Harry, I'm afraid to ask you if you have any more.
Any more grenades?
No, that's enough for now.
Okay, Bob?
I had a couple of questions.
You're okay.
I got enough damage.
I had a couple of questions.
You will for that,
The, could you give me an idea of the length of Bailey Lane from Taylor down to Mohawk? How what's that
From
distance?
Taylor to Mohawk is 730 feet, plus or minus.
30 feet. So that's less than a quarter of a mile, am I right?
Yep.
Yeah.
730 feet.
And do you know how long the path was, the existing path?
This path you're talking about?
Yeah, the current one,
And then in a straight line, it's about 400 feet.
400 feet, and how about the new one?
300, about 550.
550, cool. Now, that's numbers, right? One of the things that I very much appreciate from your neighbors is privacy. I live on West Street, and Davis Lane wasn't there when we built our house. Now, our neighbors across the street, they didn't have much to say about my building my house. And I didn't have anything to say about building Davis Lane. But it was sure nice to be able to look out there in the dark, and it was just dark.
Yep.
And actually, I'm kind of looking in this direction. So well, my point really is, I know you can build buffers. There are things that you can do.
Correct.
To break up the lines. And I would just encourage to do whatever you need to do to maintain the feeling of the neighborhood. Nobody said that when they built Davis Lane.
That's not what
let's
you
not
said.
get into- let's
You
not
said
get-
it was prohibited.
Time out, let's not get into dialogue like this, I don't wanna do that.
Cool, I'm done.
I'm sorry.
You sure?
Yep.
Okay.
So you're talking about some type of landscape buffer?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree. I think we have to meet with, I want to get the name correct. Colabash, did I pronounce it correct? Yeah. And Tom and I walk out there and actually show them where that house is
I
gonna
think
be.
it's a good idea.
And we'll, again, once we get a sense that we're going in that direction.
It would be helpful if you get to that point, where you have the house 33 shown, graphically, just to show the whole house. That would be
Are
helpful.
we missing part of the house?
It's just you probably have it.
Huh?
It's blocked out by the,
What the hell are you doing?
Oh, well, let's
Make it
forget the
billable
whole
hours.
thing.
He billed me for the whole thing.
Gonna bill you for the change.
Gonna give you a quarter.
And I just to,
fair enough.
just to clarify the previous comment, I'm gonna read you the section. Lots having reduced area of frontage shall not have frontage on a street other than a street created by the OSRD. Harry was half correct. Provided, however, that the planning board may waive this requirement where it is determined that such reduced dimensional requirements will further the goals of this bylaw.
It's a waiver.
It's not prohibited.
Oh, well, we can agree to disagree.
It would
It requires a
require
waiver.
Huh?
That's all.
Everything's a prohibition
Okay.
unless you waive it.
M account,
Was there anything else, and then we'll just do the M account? Yeah.
Have a standing request for a motion to, please, to establish an M account,
Second?
in the amount of,
$4,000.
So a motion has been made by Harry and seconded by Bob to establish an M account in the amount of $4,000 for technical review of Bailey Lane application. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous, no opposed. I think, unless you guys have something else, I think that might wrap up this particular public hearing at this point in time.
We're gonna continue it.
We're gonna continue it, yep, but I just.
well, before you vote on
Pick a
continuing,
date to,
you've got enough sense of the public and the board in terms of the OSRD or conventional?
Is Martin gonna say?
Yeah, he's all set, he said.
I'm confused as hell.
Okay.
Well,
I think we need to provide the board with some more information.
And you provided some tonight that they can review?
Yeah. and I think we've got-
actually, there was one, actually, two things. One is, current conditions, you had mentioned that in a sidebar comment, and I think it would be a good idea to, if we had a map that shows what's there right now.
Just the existing conditions. 'cause
Existing
they
conditions,
have
yeah.
that, but they don't have it by itself.
Okay.
So
And-
that might be helpful.
Showing natural resources.
Exactly,
If any.
if any wet land, whether it's officially wetland,
trail?
features, trails,
Features.
that kind of stuff.
I mean, you have that information
Unique
already.
I thought you presented
Right.
that before. Didn't you bring that?
And the other thing was I wanted to ask the board about a site walk.
That's a great.
At some point.
Okay.
It's a great idea.
All right,
Yep,
all right.
yeah, it's a great idea.
Well, I can
Just
tell
to-
you,
just to
one
put-
member,
put that
I
out
like
there.
the OSRD.
I
Okay?
hope so. I hope so.
From my perspective as well, I like the OSRD a lot better than the conventional from this one.
Absolutely, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're, for
I think
the
that-
board's knowledge, we're authors of the state model bylaw for OSRD.
Cool.
Part of the Green Neighborhoods Alliance, which originally created the
You're a
state
Green
model
Neighborhood?
bylaws.
You're a
Yes, we
Green
were.
You're a
Neighborhood,
Green
Dave?
Neighborhood?
We're a founding member of the Green Neighborhoods, yes.
So the folks that came in and did, Little Sill,
Did what?
Little Sill.
They started out, yes.
Okay,
It's good. It's good.
so, do
just
you wanna
gonna-
talk about a continuation date?
Long time ago.
I know.
Second meeting in June,
Is that? When is,
the 24th?
Sure, I'll do the one before that.
when does Larry kick, when will Larry kick in? When's the technical review? kick
I was just gonna make a motion, Mr. Chairman, if there's
Is that
no
what the
motion on the floor for
$4,000?
Was there a motion on the floor for
What's the
continuation?
full grant?
I was gonna make
Well,
a
we were
motion.
just talking about a date for it.
Oh, but there was no
There's no
real
motion.
I'd like to make a motion, if you'll hear it, and it gets a
Yeah.
second, to engage the services of Larry Graham as soon as the check clears.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Second.
So a motion's been made by Harry and seconded by Tilly to engage our technical review agent sooner rather than later.
Check.
Okay, we're close, Friday.
Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Tomorrow.
And I guess the reason I brought that up is it would be really helpful, I think, to have Larry's initial comments on this, or on the yield plan.
Yes.
There seems to be a lot of questions about that.
Yeah.
As a starting point. June second, Larry responding by June second.
June 10th. Yeah, the 24th is gonna be better.
Probably won't happen, so I think June 24th would be good.
And just FYI, I am gonna be out of town on the 24th.
boy.
All right,
Are we giving Larry enough time there?
well, that's why we're talking about
We're still
June
talking about
24th.
the review for, he's doing no.
He's plenty of time. I spoke with Larry. He was in the process of moving out of his house that he's lived in for 30 years.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
So he's been busy moving a family next to, across town. So it will be enough time for him.
I just have
So-
a technical question then, where this meeting technically, at least preliminarily opened before I was a member of the board.
No, it didn't.
No? Okay.
It opened
All right.
today.
Okay.
This is it.
So the prior meetings that you were discussing, that wasn't a,
Informal,
that was an informal,
preliminary
okay,
hearing.
all right, very good.
I was trying to get some direction on an OSRD too.
Okay, so, you're looking for a motion on the 24th?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to continue the hearing to June 24th at 7:10 PM.
Second.
Motion's been made to continue the hearing till June 24th. By Harry, seconded by Tilly. Any discussion? Discussion, all in favor?
I'm not gonna be there. so-
Aye.
No. Doesn't matter.
Aye. So we have 4 yes and abstain?
Oh, well,
Abstain,
sure.
Be a little different?
Yeah.
So, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Right.
We're gonna take that out to the hallway.
We
Yes.
have, we have old business up next, and there is no old business. We have, member or public report, any other concern of planning board member, members of the public?
I have one. I believe we all got an email from an abutter to Turning Leaf.
No.
No.
Oh.
Well, I had a lengthy phone call last night, and I got an email,
Turning leaf.
and they have many, many questions, and they've communicated with you, and,
Not really.
no, really?
What's up?
Well, anyway, I think, before it gets out of hand, and it sounds like it possibly could with this issue and several issues that they had, they feel that, this is generality, I'm giving a synopsis, but I want them to possibly come to a meeting, air their complaints, so that we can answer them. Honestly, I couldn't answer all of these questions that was thrown at me.
Well, they shouldn't be communicating with you. They should be communicating with the planning office.
Well, I think they have, and they had.
When you say they,
let's-
I've only heard from one person.
So,
Well,
so
This-
there's miscommunication going
Right.
on, and I think the punchline to it is, that you need to talk to the planning office, and you need to come to a public hearing where we can talk about these concerns, and it's not, appropriate to be talking to one board member, asking them questions and trying to get answers.
Well, there's nothing inappropriate
There's
about it
nothing,
either.
there's nothing inappropriate
You said it's not appropriate, and it's not inappropriate.
Thank you for
Right.
that correction.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. But what happens is there's a lot of miscommunication when it happens that way, and
It's not the most effective means of communication, how's that?
That
solve
sounds real
I'll be
good.
the diplomat there.
And I'll tell you how it's become ineffective. I have been contacted by one of the people that Tilly's mentioning. She requested this site inspecting engineer's email address and phone call, and has set up a meeting with him to go out in the field. And who's paying for that?
well, I hope he said no.
I'm gonna say it's not your place to go out at the request of an abutter.
Correct.
to do this.
They need to come
Right.
through the planning department, through the planning board. They
And-
have to
and-
then authorize.
And she may not have permission to enter the property.
Right.
That's another.
And we cannot
issue.
grant that, and just because you're walking beside our technical, our engineer doesn't grant that magically.
Right, so she needs to also be engaging the owners and developers of the property as well.
Yeah.
So I guess it's, can't stress enough that the best way to communicate about this stuff is for everybody to be in the same room talking about it. And that means the planning board,
At a
town
meeting,
planner, at a meeting with the public and the people who have these concerns being here with us to talk about them.
Right.
That's the effective way to get the best answers and best results.
I hope that everybody, abutters to properties, anybody at home, I hope everybody realizes these aren't closed meetings. I mean, sometimes
Right.
there are boards that have closed meetings. The seats are empty. Anybody can come to any meeting, and I know Rob for a while. You raise your hand, he'll let you talk, believe me.
But you have to be on the agenda, so, there
No, a
is
member of
protocol.
public report, they can
Yeah,
come up
member
here,
of
that's why
public
it's always
report,
on the
that's why we
agenda.
put it there.
And then it'll be a pleasant dilemma if we have so many people that show up at that point in time to have to figure that one out, how many.
Then we refer you to the clerk.
Then we. Okay,
Can
thank
we-
you,
can
thank you
we-
for
Can I call
bringing that
police?
up.
Okay, can
Am
we-
I allowed to do?
Can we,
Now.
so inform, this abutter that you say you
Well,
completed?
I would.
I always tell them they're able to communicate their concerns with the planning office
All
or
right,
or
then
come
we
to a
get them on
meeting.
the agenda, perhaps if they can make it.
Tilly, they are on the agenda, that's what I'm saying, they can come in any meeting and speak.
All right.
But I'm not gonna start coordinating with every butter of Turning Leaf for a
Well,
certain date.
I understand that, but this sounds like it's very aggressive, and I don't want it to
Is
cause
there some reason why this
future
person
issues
can't
that
call
we
or-
don't wanna.
They need to bring it to our attention.
Well, I just
an
thought it would
official
be a
way, I
nice
mean,
thing
yes.
to invite them to, we'll put you on the agenda such and such a day, so that we can absolutely,
I don't have an issue with that.
I don't-
I think it
What would
extend an
be,
invitation
what would be
so
wrong
much.
with that? But who are we extending an invitation to?
the same person, I guess, that we could.
Has she requested
how would- is-
anonymity, or can
I
we
know
have?
her name.
I'm trying to make the point that any member of the public can come in any meeting of the planning board
You're
and
right.
speak.
You're right.
So now I'm starting to be in a position of scheduling a meeting for all the butters of Turning Leaf on a certain date. Well, I can't make that date, but I can make
No,
this
no,
date.
no, I just said her. I just
But
said
you-
her.
I think what Howard's
But you
saying is
said
that
they.
it establishes a precedent
Well, I'm
that he could
sure-
get a
I'm
call
sure this
now
person
from.
will communicate with her neighbors, as she appears to be.
Could we do this? Could we do this since she's, I mean, as a board, we've talked quite openly in the public about this issue. We've put it out there really clearly how the best way to handle it is. Would it be reasonable for you to simply ask her to just send a memo, to send a letter, send an email to Howard? And he'll copy that email to all of us.
That's the way it's always worked.
Which is the way it always works. So the communication chain is transparent and she knows that she's being heard, and requesting a meeting. And we'll do it. So the onus though is on her.
Sure.
But if she sends an email to Howard requesting a meeting, we're all getting that copy. So
Right.
it'll happen.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for bringing it up.
Really?
I think, planning office, you didn't have any issues you wanna talk about?
No, Tilly brought up the one that it's just, it's worrisome that it might go down that path.
On Turning Leaf?
On Turning Leaf. So I'm just letting you know that's what's happened with an abutter, and I'll let the abutter know that these are the things that.
May I ask you just a general question about that? So Turning Leaf went through an extensive process, and there were many, many opportunities for anybody in town, especially abutters, to ask questions and engage in that process. In the time that I've been here, I haven't seen people come in kind of after the fact, after the gate's been closed, after the decision's been made, after dirt starts getting moved, and complain about and I don't know that
To
this
the
is
board.
a complaint.
To the
But-
board. I've had one abutter come in upset thinking that the road was being built where it wasn't shown on the plan. And.
Fair enough.
In order for that to happen, and any changes like that, that needs to come to the planning board.
Right.
That's the reason why she's trying to contact the site inspecting engineer for him to go out, specifically say it's being built where it's meant to be.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
He's out there, I think tomorrow or today, looking at.
On a regular basis.
On a regular
Yeah, yeah.
basis. And if he had a concern about the road was being installed, then it would be in a report to the planning board. So.
Did the issue of, that I had talked to you about with Dave Vargo's invoice, I just remember this, the invoice that had the road that should have been 12 inches of some kind of gravel, which is really only 4. Did Dave Vargo square that away?
Howard was gonna look into that.
What happened was Dave Varga, the plan specified the 12-inch gravel base and 2 6-inch lifts. And, right? And I've been out there and it looked like they're putting 12 inches in 6-inch lifts. And nothing happened after that email about, well, we want to do a 4-inch special
4-inch
parameter.
minus. They weren't gonna use a 4-inch minus.
But Dave Vargo,
Okay.
did he?
He didn't approve it,
Okay.
right? He didn't. He just said this would be something you need to bring up with the planning board, and we never heard.
So the assumption in that is that that loop will be closed and Varga will say, you know, that it's been installed per plan spec?
Yeah.
I'm sure he'd be screaming to high heaven if it wasn't. And we'd be
Yeah,
getting
because
reports with
The
lots
road
of
would be
capital
built
letters.
not per approved
Lots of
plans.
upper-case letters, you know?
you would like to think,
I'm-
and I would agree that I mean, that's a basic description of his job. So,
Well, did
yeah.
you actually communicate with him to substantiate that, what he wrote down on the invoice? I mean, he is informing us that there's a problem here, and that we should be the ones to make a decision.
Would it?
Well, as I recall, Tilly, he was informing the developer
Right.
that what they're requesting is a change in the plans, and that they needed to come to the planning board to get approval to change
Oh,
the
I didn't
plans.
see anything about a developer, I'm sorry.
Oh,
It was
no,
an
but that-
invoice.
no, it was
It was
It was a
directed towards
developer
them.
on that invoice?
Well, he was.
The developer wanted to put in a 4-inch specialized subbase, and Dave Varga said that the plans were for 12-inch.
Right.
If you're gonna change, and if they meet highway specifications or roadway specifications, and you're gonna make that change, you need to go to the planning board,
And they never did.
and they never
Oh, well, the developer never
And
did.
probably,
I see.
if I'm in their shoes, they're saying, well, that answers that for us, we're not gonna do that, and they go ahead and they build it the way it was originally.
Per plan.
approved.
Rather than
That's
waste the time,
To come to
not
the
waste
board.
time, but
Yeah.
delay things to
Yeah.
come to the board and wait for a meeting.
And you're confident that it was done?
I-
I'm not familiar with,
Well, if it wasn't
Never-
though, it sounds like we'll get a report from him that it wasn't built per plan,
I
right?
would suspect he
Yeah.
already would have.
And then it won't be approved by the
Yeah.
planning board
Right.
for acceptance at town meeting,
Yeah.
so.
I mean, when does he issue his next report in terms of the acceptance of the?
I'm gonna check in
sub-base
with him
work?
tomorrow about this request to go out to the field, which I don't think is appropriate, so.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I'll be asking for an update about reports and inspections and things like
Cause
that.
that,
Cause I'm sure that will give him a reason to send along with a bill.
yeah.
Thank heavens.
Okay. Okay.
You wanna know what's going on? Here you go. Couple weeks early.
So I just have a general question about our role as this, in the board with the public questions. Many of the questions amount to, when I built my property here, or when I bought my property here, it looked like this. I would like it to look like this, and at least until I move. That doesn't carry a lot of weight with me personally. Is there, do we just hear those out and say thank you, or is that a situation where we say, well, you know, we appreciate that that's an inconvenience, but on the flip side, development happens, no neighbor is ever excited about having another house go up behind them. but that's the way this process works.
It's the way development works, it's the way the process works, it's the way society works, it's the way
Okay.
it all works.
So we,
Now, that having been said, I think that there can be a quality of life issue. And that I think that it's entirely appropriate for the planning board to respect the existing, people who bought this environment. It's not to say it's not gonna change, but it has to change within some limits.
Be
And-
mitigated
and
as
we
much as
can-
possible.
And we can
Absolutely
intercede,
correct.
yes.
And that is, our job is to ensure that happens.
Right.
Assuming it all follows the ordinance as written.
Right, right.
You know, you heard tonight people talking about screening and buffering. Those are all reasonable requests that, a reasonable developer would agree to. And it's certainly
And
something
he
that a
certainly
planning board
seemed
can
like
require.
he was,
see, that's where I guess that's, I guess the heart of my question. What the abutter and the developer agree to privately between themselves, obviously has nothing to do with the planning board. Is there, do we have the authority to say, you want this, then put up a screen between each of your abutters?
We do.
Isn't that a substantial burden at some point that they probably agree to because they want their project, but there is
You just
authority
need to
within
feel
the bylaw.
comfortable that there's a nexus
Okay.
between what the butters are requesting to mitigate the development is reasonable or unreasonable.
Okay.
You will get some people, for instance, some people believe all Searle Street ought to be rebuilt and repaved by the developer of Turning Leaf. Well, there's 4 or 5 other major subdivisions that have occurred along Searle Street in the last 20 years. And now you're asking for
One developer.
one developer to pay for off-road improvements far from where his property is. Some people will say there's a strong enough connections, other won't.
a lot of it is judgment call. I mean, we're not, I doubt that any of us would suggest to any of the developers that they put in 40-foot larches, you know, $10,000 trees, put a whole row of those in. I mean, that's not realistic, that's not reasonable, but.
But to ask for a buffer area that maybe is 100 feet, I don't see a problem with that.
Those
Especially
are,
when
those
there's
are
lots
lots
of
of
that
questions
give and
we
take.
talk about.
But it's almost a,
And that is our rule.
so the 100 feet, I mean, that's not specified by necessarily by a bylaw or a statute, that's just a number that we feel
Matty,
comfortable with?
Matty, you're gonna be personally balancing something between where negotiating with them and borderline extorting them.
Ouch.
Borderline, I said borderline.
Yeah, wicked borderline,
Well,
and you
and it's
understand
also that
it's
this
just
is a
borderline.
special, this
But-
is a special permit.
Borderline
So
Harry.
you're allowed greater flexibility.
Right on the edge.
There's not a straight list of checklists that you can
Yeah.
go through like a definitive standard
So
subdivision.
in other words, essentially, we get a bigger ask when it's a special permit. We get to ask for everything that we feel is, as long as we can justify it within some nexus of reasonableness.
Why
Okay,
should
yeah.
you grant a waiver? And you can't answer that in words. You'll know it when you feel it.
Okay.
Now
Right?
on a,
You're the one voting yes for the waiver. You are.
now on
He
a,
is, Tilly is, and Rob is, and I am.
what you'll find as the years go by, because they're really, all the projects are different, but for example, in subdivisions, you know, there are basic standards that they have to meet. You know, the 50-foot right-of-way, the X width of pavement, the length of the cul-de-sac, blah, blah, blah. Then the property sizes, the footage, the back.
And see, I can wrap my brain around all of those with no problem,
Okay,
because
but-
those are spelled out.
No, but what I'm getting at
Yeah.
is because those are spelled out,
Yep.
even in those, you will come up against abutters, and you'll have to deal with the same issue of what is reasonable for a new lot going in beside someone else. And this issue of if there's trees there, that's when we say, well, maybe what we wanna do is save, a 25-foot strip of existing vegetation that the developer was originally saying was just gonna be open to taking down. So we start playing that role, even in subdivisions, with the abutters, to pull the existing with the new together.
It happened in Turning Leaf.
Yeah, exactly.
There was a guy who's,
Exactly.
he had a pool or something that
Trying to
was
get over
close
my
to the property.
libertarian leanings from early on in my life, where it was, you know, private
No,
property is private property.
Your questions.
Trying to get over that.
No, your questions are very good questions, because, I mean,
I think your questions are great.
Yeah, I came out 2 years ago. Harry said that I should accept a write-in, and so he.
Just as he nominated you for clerk.
I don't even have to take names. I know his name. Anyway, it's a complex transition. Why are we doing this and not that?
Right.
What the heck is an OSRD as opposed to a convention? I mean,
A&R,
Approval not required,
thank you.
AKA a Form A lot.
Okay.
Don't they have, I mean, one way is, you know, the School of Hard Knocks, you go through it like this and we just learn it as time goes by.
Yeah.
The other is, and whether you have time or not, there are some great classes out there about planning boards.
There's very little that there's gonna be something every meeting, I'm sure, but that was just what I was having the conceptually a difficult time with is, yes, it stinks that now you have somebody going in behind you. I would hate it myself, but,
They have the right,
right.
and then you try to pull the two together.
You try to.
Site plan, you get into a lot of.
You have to consider the abutters to some extent. There's no two ways about it. I mean, these are the residents of Georgetown. At the same time, you have to balance it where the developer has a right to develop the property.
Right.
So it has to be something that can be compatible for both to live with.
I think
And-
you're doing,
and
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I think you're doing your job when you make no one happy.
Yeah, really, yes.
Jeez.
When everybody's
That's-
really
No,
ticked
I
off at
wouldn't
you.
Profession.
say that.
When everybody's ticked off at you, you did a great job.
You did a good job.
Did you get a three
that's why I
loose leaf
volunteered.
notebook? Were you able to prepare?
Yeah, we're gonna get him all the documents he needs. We haven't gotten it to him yet.
Yeah, well,
What's
that would be a help to you
What I missed?
with all the laws in
Just
the
getting the
booklet.
three-ring binder.
That was
site plan
a great
approval,
tool.
Zoning
That's
subdivision, all the standards for
Oh,
them.
wow.
Yeah, that would be
So,
good.
we have a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion's been made, it's been seconded to adjourn. Any discussion, no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. Very good.